But first, let's begin with this. I want you to reflect on a time when you witnessed someone struggling with some form of trauma. So it could just be, not just, but it could be stress. It could be somebody who had an accident, shock or grief or loss, any of those things. And once you have someone in mind, I want you to think about, was there ever a moment when you wondered to yourself, I wonder if there's something deeper going on than what's showing right now on the surface with this person? You had that little bit of a question in your mind. And did you feel a sense of helplessness at that point, like not knowing how to, or if you even should broach the subject with them? And especially if it was around trauma, because you just never know. That's a big piece to bring up. And then if you're wrong, what does that have? What happens there? So, there's so many reasons why we don't do what we think we might want to do. But here's the thing, at some time later, where you maybe made aware of what was truly transpiring when you had that intuitive gut suspicion, but you didn't maybe do something. And later you're like, oh, I had a feeling and I didn't do anything. So keep that in mind as we go through today. So again, founder of the two programs that are offered. And so the goal, as we talked about, is really getting to the core issue. And we're going to talk about the abuse awareness, getting to the core issue. And I don't know if you can see that or not, so I'm going to move my picture over. But we want to say, is it trauma or drama? Because a lot of times what happens is that people will say, okay, I'm seeing this in someone else. I am concerned. I don't really know if it's trauma that they're experiencing or is it drama? Is this something that it's a phase? And that's a big piece that, we see, especially with our kids. Our kids always go through phases. They have the terrible twos sometimes, or they have the threes and whatever goes with that. And, they move through, you get into the teenage years. And so, you see these behaviors and you think, all right, is this trauma and something deeper, or is this sort of drama and something that's maybe normal in a phase? And that's where I think it stops a lot of people from intervening or preventing because they don't know. And it's a tough thing to bring up when you don't know. So let's look a little bit more deeply at that. Trauma is actually a lasting emotional response that often results from living through a distressing event, harms the sense of self, harms a sense of safety, and it really creates a difficulty with the ability to regulate your emotions and navigate relationships because the trauma is always, always there until it's rectified. And even after it's rectified, I take it from me, it is always there, but the intensity of it doesn't have to be that bad. So when there's intervention, when there's help that's, employed, it makes such a huge difference. We look at trauma, this is one of many, again, definitions, but drama can just be attention-seeking behavior. And it's regarding problems that can often be just superficial. It can be that, like I said, the 2-year-old who wants the toy, the teenager who wants to use the car and the sibling has it or whatever it may be. And it's they're doing what they need to do or what they think they need to do in order to get what's desired, even if it's not appropriate. So the question I have, and I don't have all the answers to this, but what I really want to plant in people's minds is trauma and drama, as we can see, are two different things. But who's to say that drama does not come from a deeper trauma? And that's where we have to look deeper. That's where we have to find out awareness. We need to have knowledge. We need to become aware of different things that we can do, strategies we can employ, how to go about it if we have these suspicions. Because just because it's drama and it's attention-seeking behavior that we think is about superficial stuff, there might be some trauma much deeper. And that's where, don't let that question, is it trauma or drama, stop you. Keep going, look deeper, and find the ways to be able to do that. As I'll tell you one thing, I was a tough nut to crack There was something going on so much deeper within me, and there was a lot of drama around me that was really pointing to something much more traumatic going on with me. But what was happening is people cared, they truly cared. But if they asked me what was going on, I would just sort of, deflect, and I would make up reasons. And, there was a lot at stake for me. It was my father's life, that was being threatened. So I was going to do whatever I could to kind of take the eye off of me and what was really going on. But I will say that if somebody had really pushed me in a kind way, but in a way that was like, are you sure you're okay? And really just showing that they cared and that they were a trusted individual, I would have broken. I would have then said something. So it's just so important. And it's something that I'm going to get off my soapbox here and I'll move on. But it's important that we keep looking when we have those suspicions and we do it in the right way. Okay. So, what's in it for me? Let's just take a quick look here. First of all, as we talked about my book, one of the things that I was so thrilled about was recently, my book was, it was reviewed by an online book club, and I received a 4 out of 4, and I was thrilled about that. But I was less thrilled about that and more thrilled about an anonymous comment that was left on the website. And it was this right here. She said, "We see a lot of books around these heavy topics, and most of them turn out to be motivating, but only a few consider showing the practical steps to a healthier and happier life. This book is definitely from the latter category." And right then, my heart sank, because when I wrote this book, I didn't want it to be about me and my trials and my tribulations, and that's it. I wanted it to be healing. I wanted it to show that you can go from point A of trauma to point B where you can thrive. I wanted it to show individuals that even if it's not you that's going through this, you can become aware of all of these different types of strategies. So I, was thrilled. So that's that piece of it. The next thing is I then went from, and this is a kind of a little bit of a funny story, but the when I had my book was first out in 2010, and people read it, quick read, and they were contacting me and saying, "When are you going to write the sequel?" And I said, "I'm not." And, they said, "Oh, we really want a sequel." And I said, "Well, what do you want to know?" And they said, "Well, we want to know what your life is like now." And I was so perplexed by that at the time, because I said, I get up, I eat breakfast, I go to work, I get home, I have dinner, I spend time with my family, I go to bed, I get up, I do it all over again. There's nothing to really speak of. But I get it now. Like, they wanted to know, like, how did I get through in relationships? How did I get through my days when I was triggered? How did I? So I understand that now. And I am working on it all these years later. Could be pretty close to done, but I've kind of diverted, and I found that the companion workbook is something that I think will maybe be so much more valuable to people, because they will be able to go through this companion workbook. There are questions that go with each part of the personal memoir. And it doesn't have to be about abuse. It can be about any trauma. It can also relate to you and your experience, or someone else. So these are just some of the things that you can get the information from. The other piece is I did a toolkit, and that was what I showed you at the beginning with the toolkit. And that is something that not only gives you both of the book and the companion workbook, but it also gives you extra tools like the mantra magnet and just these little gifts here and there. So, oh, and I also want to get back to that too. Right now, I have a special where if you buy the toolkit, you also get free access. It's a $329 course for living a conscious life. So a lot of times we go through life, and especially if we've had trauma, where we just aren't conscious. We just sort of go through our days and do the best we can. And when we have that consciousness and that awareness, we can shift it. And we can really bring in what it is that we want. So that is right now. There's a little ticket in there that will give you the code to be able to get that whole. I think it's a 5-week course online, pre-recorded for free. Then the other piece is that I've really realized over the years that to go through this alone is not easy. And even if you are not doing it for you, but you are a professional who is working with individuals, maybe you're a social worker, maybe you are a physician, maybe you're, anybody who really is working with individuals in that population that have had that trauma in their life, then you need that forum. You need that support. How do you do this? How do you work with it? And, I'm not going to, again, pretend that I have all the answers and I know, but people have been through this. They have been, whether you're a professional or you're a personal individual going through it with someone, you have all of that information that you can then share with others. Or maybe you come to this and you don't know and you're looking for information. So this forum really helps. You can do a drop-in one time, or you can do a membership for the year. I try and make it as accessible for everyone as possible. So these are things that are really available to you. And of course, the other thing available is reach out to me. If you have any questions, if you need support, please reach out and I will do the best that I can with the resources that I have to get you where you need to be, or your loved one needs to be, or your client or patient needs to be. So